North Korea is making good on its reputation for being unpredictable, now threatening to back out of next month's planned summit between Kim Jong-un and President Trump. So what should we make of the diplomatic gamesmanship? Joining me now from South Carolina, Senator Lindsey Graham, a key member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, North Korea suggested this week, as we say, that they may not show up in Singapore for the summit. Are they playing us?
Right. I don't know, but they're making a mistake. If they don't show up, that means diplomacy has failed, and President Trump is intent on calling the question on North Korea within his first term. So that puts us back on a path to conflict. It'd be time to take American families and dependents out of South Korea. I talked to the president 2 or 3 days ago. He's not going to be played. They're trying to run out the clock. They have a record of promising to give up their nuclear weapons. In reality, they build up their weapons. They've done this for 30 years. It's going to end one way or the other by 2020.
And you've also said that if they do show up, have the summit, and then don't make a deal, that's dangerous as well.
Well, that ends diplomacy. The last thing you want is diplomacy to be ended or to have a meeting with President Trump and you continue to play him, because they've done that for 30 years. Trump's not Obama. He's not going to tolerate that. He wants a win-win. We're not out to replace Kim Jong-un. We're not trying to reunify the peninsula. We're not trying to spread democracy to North Korea. We're trying to get them to give up their nuclear weapons program and the Korean War and make it a win-win. If they don't show up, that's the end of diplomacy. If they do show up and try to play Trump, that means military conflict is the only thing left. And if we have a conflict with North Korea, they will lose it, not us.
I want to be clear here, because you do talk to the president a lot. You said you talked to him 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Has he said to you, if they don't get a deal, a diplomatic deal to end North Korea's nuclear program, that he is going to use military efforts against North Korea, against the Kim regime?
He says he's going to end this conflict within his first term. That every other president has been played. They've done every agreement known to man, bilateral, multilateral agreements. They promise to give up their weapons. They back out and they build up their weapons program. There's no place to kick the can. President Trump told me 3 days ago that he wants to end this in a win-win way. He thinks that's possible. But if they pull out, they play him, that we're going to end North Korea's threat to the American homeland in his first term. And I'll let you surmise as to what that might look like.
Now, you just heard Treasury Secretary Mnuchin talk about trade negotiations with China.
Yeah.
Here was the president this week.
I can only tell you this: we're going to come out fine with China. Hopefully China's going to be happy. I think we will be happy.
Any concern that President Trump is too much of a hurry for a deal with China, either to score a political win or to try to satisfy Xi to help broker the Kim-Trump summit?
Well, I think it's smart to engage China on trade abuses, and it would also be smart to get them more involved in trying to help us with North Korea. So we finally got some leverage now with China. Everything before Trump didn't work. Being quiet, not disturbing North Korea. We've engaged them like 20 times in the last 20 or 30 years. Nobody's ever really pushed back against China. So North Korea wants to wait Trump out. They're going to try to nickel and dime the president. They're going to give a little bit, take a lot. They're going to play China against the United States. None of that's going to work. They're trying to run the clock out. They understand our electoral system. And the only thing I can tell you after talking to President Trump 3 days ago, China and North Korea have a chance to end the conflict in a win-win fashion, and if it doesn't end soon, it's going to be a real mess, and if there's a war, it will be in China's backyard, not ours.
I want to continue, though, on this question of China and trade, because let's talk about ZTE, which I was discussing with Treasury Secretary Mnuchin. It's not just that they violated U.S. sanctions against companies doing business with Iran and North Korea. As you well know, there are also concerns that ZTE is a national security threat to this country. So when you hear President Trump talk about, well, you know, maybe we need to reduce some of our sanctions against ZTE, does that concern you?
Yes. I think President Trump's going to is a good negotiator. You know, we're not going to withdraw our troops as part of a deal with North Korea because that's been stabilizing. As to ZTE, continuing to do business with them as normal, there'd be a real backlash in Congress if that were on the table because this is a Chinese-run company that's up to no good. But where are we? We're at the table with China about leveling out trade imbalances. We're talking about a summit with a North Korean leader directly with the President of the United States. The only reason we are where we are is because President Trump has tried something new. He's approaching this issue from strength, not weakness. He wants a good deal. North Korea could come out of this thing just fine, but if they play Trump, if they try to nickel and dime Trump, and if they try to run out the clock on President Trump, then we're going to have a conflict, and it's going to be in his first term. I'm highly confident of that because there is no other place to kick the can. We've let it get too bad for too long, and President Trump is going to end this problem with North Korea one way or the other, and he should.
All right. Finally, the Russia investigation, and I want to take you back to a tweet that President Trump put out on Thursday. Here it is. Wow, word seems to be coming out that the Obama FBI spied on the Trump campaign with an embedded informant. If so, bigger than Watergate. Now, there have been, Senator, several reports since then. There was no mole inside the campaign, but as the FBI became increasingly worried about possible links with Russia, it had a fellow, apparently an American professor based in England, talk to several members of the Trump campaign, particularly in the foreign policy area. Does that bother you?
Yeah, it bothers me that they may be an informant in one of the campaigns unless there's a damn good reason. All I can tell you is that the dossier compiled by Mr. Steele that was given to the Justice Department where they obtained a warrant against Carter Page, somebody inside the Trump orbit, was a bunch of political garbage. It was not well vetted, and
but if I may, let me just ask you, because what we're talking about here is not a mole inside the campaign, but asking somebody outside the campaign to make efforts to reach out to Carter Page, to George Papadopoulos, apparently to Sam Clovis, to try to find out what they were doing with the Russians. Do you think that's a problem?
I think this whole area is a problem. Let me tell you why. The Department of Justice used a document prepared by a foreign agent, paid for by a political party, to obtain a FISA warrant and never told the court. If they were using somebody to engage the Trump campaign, was there judicial oversight? They had the thumb on the scale when it came to the Clinton investigation. Somebody's got to watch those who watch us. Senator Grassley sent a letter asking questions about this. I'm intent on letting Mr. Mueller do his job, but I want to make sure that the FBI and the Department of Justice did not try to, in their own way, change the outcome of the election. Did they use techniques and tactics approved by the court, or did they just make this up themselves? I don't know.
Okay, I got less than a minute left. The President's lead lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, was back at it again this week, attacking the special counsel investigation. Here he is.
If you're going to write an unfair report, write it, and we will combat it. We're ready to rip it apart, and we're ready to rip them apart if that's what they want.
Do you think Rudy Giuliani is helping or hurting the president?
I think he's showing a determination to push back and aggressively defend his client. With Rudy, it's a little bit of both, but I'd like to have Rudy on my team if I were the president, because he's pretty good at talking to the American people. He has a reputation as being a solid prosecutor. Let Mr. Mueller do his job, then see what's there, and let the Trump people rip into it, and we'll figure out as a country whether or not there's anything there. I haven't seen any evidence of collusion by the president, but time will tell.
Senator Graham, thank you. Thanks for sharing part of your weekend with us. Always good to talk with you, and let's both hope we never need a good lawyer.
Well, let's hope so.
Up next, we'll bring in